It's 2026, AI is everywhere, and that has had an impact on how we do interviews for roles like Platform Engineer and DevOps Engineer. So in this video, I'm going to cover a couple of the interview styles that you can expect. First comes the grind, all right? And this is the bit where we've all got to put in the work and you're applying for jobs, you're applying for hundreds of jobs. Hopefully you're doing the smart thing and following up every application with a cold call email, like either pinging them directly by email or finding them on LinkedIn and dropping them a message. One of the things I like to do is when I'm applying for jobs, I go onto LinkedIn, I apply for jobs, I look for the companies and find a company. In the company, I go down to people, search for talent, recruitment. I often look for the management or the leadership that is part of that team. So if I'm looking for the platform engineering role, then I look for platform manager. Or if I'm looking for DevOps, I look for a senior DevOps, somebody working in that team. And then just reach out. Be like, hey, my name's Chris, I'm an engineer, and I want to work with you guys. So, can you tell me a little bit about the company? Do you know the best person I could talk to? And then this does two things. First of all, it exposes your profile to said individual. Normally it's the same as Facebook. At Facebook, when people click on you, people friend you, or they try and sell you something on Marketplace. So you click on their profile to kind of see who they are, gauge if they're trustworthy or anything like that. People on LinkedIn do the same thing. So when you send that message, they're going to click on you to see who you are. Who are you? Why are you messaging me? And that's your opportunity. That's your first opportunity. So have a good LinkedIn profile that clearly says what you're doing and why you're doing it. Yes, it's hit and miss on how serious these should be. As you know, my profile says 90% Kubernetes lover, 10% YAML hater, which comes from more experience maybe, that the joke is almost like an inside joke. And that's neither here nor there. But what does matter is your history, what you do, and your activity, right? Your activity on LinkedIn. If you're liking, commenting, giving your opinion, or just sharing, people see that you're actually interested in what's going on in that tech sector. That's their first impression of you, right? That's their first impression once you do this sort of cold call. If they like it, which hopefully they will, they'll then respond and go, hey, how's it going? Yeah, what do you want to know? How can I help? Oh, let me see if I can find your application and, not shortlist it, but review it. And I find that it doesn't work every time, but it does help. It helps build that sort of relationship before you've even started that process. That for me is job applications 101. I mean, that is what everybody should be doing. It's a lot of work, but it's worth it. And then once you are successful and you've got past the cold calling and you've been invited to your first call. First call is normally with a recruiter or a HR, somebody not normally technical, but they're technically aware. That's good. You've made it past the hundreds, thousands of applicants, and you've made it to the first stage interview. This is where you need to shine your soft skills, right? How you communicate, how you explain yourself. Because like I just said, the likelihood is you are explaining it to somebody that is maybe not to the same depth of technical understanding that you are trying to show and demonstrate. So you just need to show the soft skill side, explain it. Always try and explain things in a way that as if you're talking to a 5-year-old. And that's not to say that you are saying they're as smart as a 5-year-old, but it means that the concepts and the way you're explaining things are universally accepted. If I was to talk about Kubernetes and say, we're talking about ships and containers on ships, and then you got the ferry marshal who orchestrates all the ships that has all the containers. It's relatable and you can talk about it. So that's what I mean by explaining it in a way that everyone can understand. And that's that soft skill. And then also you want to start talking about how you work, your work ethic. Show an interesting culture because it's very trendy right now. People want to have a good work culture. and showing that you actually have consideration and an idea of what your ideal work culture looks like means that you take your workplace seriously and you appreciate it. That's fine. The soft skills, they can all be learned. It's not something you're born with, and it is practice, something I've practiced for a long time. Let's go and assume you get past stage one. Stage one complete. Way. You're then going to go into the technical part of it. Now, this is not to say that for every single job out there, this is going to be the process. Some of them have like 5 stages. Some of them have more. And for me, once it gets like past 4 stages, I'm not even going to try and apply for this job, because it's just, they clearly, in my opinion, if you know what you want after you've met somebody, in terms of personality-wise and whether you think they'll fit the team, and then as long as they can show technical understanding and willingness, honestly, I don't know what else you want. Like, I don't know what you're going to get from 5 to 7 stage interviews versus, 2 or 3. But let's pretend you did make it to the technical, and hopefully you do. This is where things are interesting this year. Now, last year and the year before, in fact, let's go back a little bit more. Let's go 2-3 years ago. Technical take-homes were the de facto. That's what you did. Somebody would, here you go, here's a piece of paper, I want you to go and deliver this, and then present it back. They give you a day, a week, something like that. If you were going for platform, you would get something like, define some infrastructure as code with Terraform and spin up some resources and put it in Git. For DevOps, maybe you would spin up similar sort of thing and then maybe put some GitOps in there and some pipelines. And for SRE, a mixture of both. I mean, yes, I know technically SRE is all about SLIs and SLOs, but the reality is the lines between platform DevOps and SRE are completely blurred, so we're just going to generalize it for now. And that was it. You got a technical take-home, you did it. AI was new. AI was not the go-to, and people weren't prepared for it. Like recruiters were not prepared for it, and they weren't doing anything about it. Last year, so that was 2025, we saw that people obviously we're abusing AI for the job application. So the technical take home was like scrapped. You weren't seeing it very often, and what you were seeing was people getting you online, getting you on a call. So you'd be like this, you'd be like a call. And first of all, they'd start quizzing you. Tell me what a replica set is. Tell me the difference between a daemon set and a deployment. Tell me the difference between what a stateful set is. Tell me how you would define, I don't know, X, Y, Z, right? How would you manage secrets? How would you do that? What would you use? And it can be really intimidating. And that type of interview process does still exist. And it's kind of also elevated as well with some respects. So there's a lot of tools out there now, and some of them are free tools, which is why companies are taking them on board. And it's they give you a Kubernetes cluster, typically, because Kubernetes is the de facto for everything. If you can do Kubernetes, you can do anything. That's kind of how it's treated anyway. And you would get a cluster. So, if I was looking at you get a shared window terminal like this, and they'll be like, hey, log into this and look at all the pods, right? Okay, yeah, I'm looking at all the pods. Right, then there's a pod that's failing. Can you look into the logs of that pod? Yeah, sure, I can look into that pod, or, and that's how the interview would go. A lot of them actually have no problem, or the ones that I've experienced, they'd have no problem with you using K9s, because the reflection of your understanding of the kubectl versus what you're actually trying to achieve wasn't really the important part. The end goal was the important part, not necessarily the journey. If you know every single kubectl command, that's fantastic. Is it necessarily a requirement? Not as much as just actually understanding what you're trying to do and how you're trying to get there. If you can get to the logs, I mean, I naturally don't have any failing pods, which doesn't help my situation for what I'm doing here, for demonstration purposes, of course. Can you tell me about the logs in the Helm controller? And you're like, okay, yeah, let me have a look. Here's the logs. Okay, yeah, looks good. Well, actually looks questionable. Can I describe it? Yeah, I can. Yeah. What's going on with that? Oh, look, it's, there's a volume that contains an injected data from multiple sources. If you can get there, they don't care how you get there. It's more about understanding your mindset, your ways of working, and how you troubleshoot. Obviously, this will be a screen share, so they'll be making sure you're not using AI still. Which brings us on to the other type of technical take-home that I'm seeing currently. And it's a new one. It's a new one. And this is what I'm talking about. Here's an example. Now, I've seen this, and what they're doing is they're giving you the technical take-home. Oh, wait a minute, Chris, you just said nobody does that anymore. Well, it looks like it's coming back. But instead of saying, hey, yeah, no, you can't do this using AI, yada, yada, yada. We know now that businesses are AI first. Everyone's trying to pump their businesses with AI regardless. If they need it, if they don't need it, doesn't matter. If you're not invested in it and not understanding it, your business is going to fall behind, is the general sort of thing that's about right now. So how is this different? Well, this is basically saying build something, make it production ready, right? So it's like build a production grade local Kubernetes platform with GitOps, full observability, and we actually want an AI powered SRE. You're like, oh, okay, cool. So we actually want to build an AI tool that the production cluster can leverage to debug itself, essentially. That sounds really, really cool. The rest of this stack is your bread and butter for Kubernetes and typical sort of like open source. So K3s, that's like most people's flavor for just starting up. Rancher Desktop uses K3s. So, that's Mac, Linux, and Windows support out of the box. So that's easy enough. Argo CD, one of the two big players. You've got Argo and Flux, that's fine. Looks good to me stack, which is obviously, what is it? It's Loki, Grafana, Tempo, and Mimir. Yeah, Mimir, I think. Oh yeah, it literally says it there. Grafana, Loki, Tempo, Prometheus, Mimir, which is like an open source stack that you should be familiar with because it is one of the most widely adopted. They create so much stuff. It's fantastic. It's an equivalent to the likes of like Datadog and New Relic and things. And yeah, we need a deployment, an application to generate logs. Fine. Okay, cool. What's the problem? What's the caveat? Well, it's the time box and this line here, AI usage required, right? They want you to build something fast. They want it secure, production ready, GitOps, and they want to see what your prompts look like. This is awesome and also a headache, but it's awesome because it's gone there, right? We can't beat AI. We can't beat it. Everyone's using it. They're finding new ways. People are strapping their phones to the front of it. They got the phones in front of the cameras, so you can't. It's all sorts. People are very, very clever, and they are never more clever when trying to get something that they want, especially when it leads to money. Right? Really intuitive, very clever. So, just going, hey, look, we will let you use AI, but we need to see full Git history, we need to see it within a certain time window, and we need to see that you can actually use AI how you're supposed to do it. So if I was going to attack this, right, and this is for anyone that actually fancies giving it a go and just seeing if you can, because I think you'll find that actually it's a lot harder than you realise. If I was going to attack this, I would hit this with a PRD, right? I would do a first draft PRD. I would then get it second drafted, third drafted, fourth drafted using an AI tool, probably like Gemini, right, for PRDs, because I like using Gemini for PRDs. Then once that's done, I would get it to create a plan, right? So it's got awesome, massive context window for Gemini. Create a plan using the PRD. And then also create the repo structure and the directory with, skills, agents, all that stuff, all the fun stuff. And then I would bring it down, right? I'd bring it down, and then I would get it in my local Git tree, and I would probably switch over to Claude, because Claude obviously is like one of the best at code, like in my opinion anyway, in my usage. Everyone else may vary. And I would say, look, here's my PRD, here's my plan, here's my skills, here's my agents, whatever it is that I've defined. Build it, right? Go out, build it, run everything by me first, okay? I'll be like, make sure it's all to best practice, recent versions, everything within the last 6 months for versions, because these are some of the things that can catch you out. You can say, go deploy external secrets. 9 times out of 10, Claude and Gemini still default to the old beta API that's nearly 6 months old. In fact, it's over 6 months old. Why? Don't know. But if I give it really clear direction and context, then it's going to be fine, right? It will do it. It will do the right versions. Then you need to focus on networking and network policies and allowances. These are all the things that you need to consider. And this time box of 1 to 2 hours will disappear very quickly because, yes, you can verbalize to speed up, you can use dictation, but it's still got to do the work. And that many API calls, you're going to start chewing up tokens like nobody's business. So it's a tough gig. And when I did it, it took me a couple of hours. And did I do it? Yes. Did I build something that I would call production ready? Yeah. I was able to build a cluster with single sign-on, create accounts that use Terraform. What else? Had authentic, didn't go for external secrets, so used SOPs, so I could just put everything in Git. And it ran, it did everything it did. And I even, in my deployment, I put K-Agent in it as my AI SRE. And I put K-Hook to basically trigger on the event. So, and what happened was when you triggered the event using like a workload trigger, it created an issue in GitHub using the GitHub MCP through the AI agent. And I'm like, just call me the AI wizard. No, I'm joking. Obviously not. This is like low level, fairly simple compared to some of the massive agentic workflows that are currently being built. But it is totally doable. But it was not easy. I would say for me to build the same thing manually, I was looking at a day, right? But it would have been a lot cleaner. I am not happy with how messy the commits, the code, the rewrites, the resource definitions, the version mismatches. These were some of the challenges that I faced. And I tell you what, I have learned so much from doing this technical take-home about interacting with AI to build a project, like a large-scale project, this is bigger, right? This is bigger than just build me a code that does API token versions. This is bigger, and I've learned a lot. And I think that anyone looking to really get the most out of it, the most out of AI, is to do something like this, similar sort of thing. Do a big project, and then see how much hard work it actually is, and then do it again and see if you can get the time down and get the quality better, right? So you don't have to iterate it so many times. But yeah, this is what I'm seeing. Overall, I think this is actually a really good thing for people coming into DevOps and platform engineering because it doesn't necessarily take away the technical understanding, but it gives you a way to actually express and elevate what you know. In my head, I know that I want a secrets manager. I know I want a single sign-on operator. I know I want some kind of encryption tool. I know I want some kind of networking. But without going back to the documentation, especially for like network policies, right? I would have to go back to the docs and do it all. But you can kind of almost skip past that and say, look, this is what I want, and this is the standard of what I want it. Go build it. And this is great. Entry level, mid-level, even at senior level, like based on your PRD, really reflects you as an engineer and the things that you are considering. How broad are you thinking? How next day? What level of operation are you looking at? What level of scalability are you looking at? How have you built the bootstrap? What factors are you taking into consideration? And depending on where you are on your engineering journey, you will have very different answers. My answers for this 3 years ago, 4 years ago, when I was just getting started, would be totally different, and it would have been a lot smaller. I would not have done single sign-on. It wouldn't even been a thought. Why would I have done that? I would have just said, hey, yeah, here's the local password for Argo CD. don't worry about single sign-on, because that's where my head was at the time. Closing this video off, some of the best tips that I want to leave you with, right, is practice interviews. Always be open to interviews. Never reject one. Even if it's a job and the pay's not right or the title's incorrect, but you're still kind of like interested, get the practice, right? Best thing with interviews is practice and talking to people on camera, because that's what interviews are now. You are talking to someone on camera. Try and make eye contact. It feels weird. Try and do it. You know, talk to them. Explain it to them. Yeah, it feels very weird, but do it. Practice your soft skills, right? Record yourself explaining something. Hello, camera. Yes, Kubernetes is an orchestrator to manage containers and pods at scale. And then watch it back. Watch it back, and then see if you like it. See if you say a lot. See if you move too much. If you don't like it, change it. You know, practice. And like, I have a real problem with swiveling on my chair. So really I should have a chair that doesn't swivel, and then that will be better. I also have this other thing where when I'm explaining, or when I'm deep explaining, I do this. Yes, yeah. So this is how this will work, this would how this work. That's because my mind is mapping the problems out, and then I actually verbalize. I verbalize my thinking process, which is a good thing. It would be better if I could do it to whoever I'm speaking to. But verbalizing your thought process is a good thing, and never let anyone tell you otherwise. If you can correct yourself by hearing it out loud and go, no, that's incorrect, that's good. That shows engineering. That shows logical thinking. Nobody expects you to figure it all out in your head and then just blurt out the answer. Verbalize it. Share your process. And I wish you all the best. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel. If you want more focused on the interviews or the interview stages in more depth, please let me know. And I'll see you in the next one.